trying to be able to play some at the 4 and stay on the floor at the 5 when you go small.
Sure.
He thinks he's there. It's up to the coaches, obviously. From what you've seen, do you think he's going to be able to handle that this year?
Are you talking about the 4 or
No,
playing?
both.
Yeah, I think.
His agility.
Yeah, I don't know that. Listen, it's time will tell on that, and are there times where we could potentially play that lineup? Sure, but I'm not sure that in today's game, that's going to be a way we're going to be able to play for extended periods effectively. I do think there perhaps are some teams where you can go that route, but there are too many teams that are playing spread offensive systems that really require tremendous kind of foot speed and agility and great ball. Our ball screen defense in general needs to get better, but I do think there's some lineups where we'll take a look at that.
And what are you looking at? Caleb said he's never been had less body fat than he has now. His weight is still up. His goal is to play 30 minutes a game. How much would you like?
Did you ask the other guys what their goal in terms of minutes per game were? Because I would love to know that, and we'll total it up, and then we'll see how realistic that is. All right, we'll share it with them.
I mean, with his talent, and you just said he might be your go-to guy. So how often would you like to see him on the floor?
I think we'd love to see him play. He's going to definitely play more than I think he played around 21 minutes last year. That's definitely going to get increased as long as he can do what we're expecting him to do. But he's worked hard to put himself in position to be more conditioned, and I think just having a year under his belt will help that. But I wouldn't want to put like necessarily a number on it. But I will tell you that his minutes will significantly increase, and I think that as teams will try to attack him as they did last year in terms of ball screen situations, and they'll try to be really physical with him. So Caleb's done a good job trying to bring some variety to his game, which I think is important. As I've mentioned, he's gonna shoot more threes and play a little bit more out on the floor. Because I think that's important for our team and important for him too. But he's in good shape right now, and I think he can take another level in terms of his conditioning. I really do. I just got a report this afternoon from our strength coach that he had dropped 2% body fat. So he's made good strides, and we got to keep moving in that direction. We're not quite there yet.
Chris, does he need to be a dominant kind of all Big Ten caliber player for you guys to have success this year?
I think both he and his brother will need to have good years for us to have a good year, whatever that looks like. Because I think both guys are going to be on the floor. Both guys, Andre for one, gives us a lot of versatility. He was critical in a lot of games last year, but he was critical in playing a specific role. He's going to need to increase his scoring and his production. But I really would look at it. Certainly Caleb will need to take the next step, whatever that looks like. But I would put his brother along with that. They're both going to need to have good years for us.
How varied do you think you might be as far as like setting lineups this year? It seems like you're continuing to add guys that can play 2 or 3 different roles.
Yeah.
How different could this team look from game to game or possession to possession?
I wouldn't anticipate that we would have the same starting lineup for 32 games by any stretch, maybe not even 20 games. And I think our guys are just going to have to understand that's, guys get caught up in the starting lineups, and that's, I just don't know that we have a team where you could say right now, this is the 4 starters that are definitely going to. So I do think there's going to be potentially 7, 8 guys, 9 guys, maybe as many 9 guys that could rotate in and out of a starting lineup. And, that's good for us. I think having flexibility in our lineup is good. Last year we were able to finish the game. We weren't necessarily small, but it was a versatile lineup for us late in a lot of games. I don't know that we necessarily have that this year. It helped us a lot late in games, but that's where guys like Caleb and Micah and Jay are going to have to be good at finishing games out in those positions.
When you think back to last year, like you said, you didn't necessarily know in some cases what some of you guys were going to give you, but you kind of knew, like, okay, maybe there was a little bit of a pecking order in a way. Kata had been through things, JT had been through things. It seems like maybe it might be a little more, nuance to it this year. Is there less separation between players on the roster this year compared to last year?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
how does that challenge you as a coach, and how do you have to sort of massage egos and
Yeah.
all the things that would come with that, where it's not clear cut, this guy's clearly better than you. There's
Well,
a lot of
yeah, no, that's a good. I said earlier, I don't know if you were here. I think that this is our most challenging year as a coaching staff because of our early schedule and because of what you're talking about there. There is not necessarily there. I think there's a clear separation in terms of some of our guys that have some experience and were part of last year's team and that played important roles on last year's team. But beyond that, it's pretty wide open. So we have to figure out quickly what our strengths are as a team, how we feel like guys are playing, and what gives our team the best chance of winning, and what group that looks like. There are a lot of questions. And listen, that's what happens when you have, a team that has some turnover like we had, so or graduation like we had. So we're anxious to figure that out. We really are.
Who were the five that you went with down the stretch in Spain in that third game?
Oh,
When you rallied?
you're asking probing questions right now. You were
Well, there's
trying
no
to figure
video.
out you're trying to figure out who my opening day starting lineup is going to be. Um, let me see if I can remember this.
You could always lie.
Yeah, I realize that. Conveniently forget. Um, we have a crack staff member in the back who may remember better than I do. He's hiding right now. Dan, do you remember who we finished with late in Game 3? I believe the lineup looked like
CJ and Key.
it was CJ, yes, Keyshawn. I believe it was Luther, Kyle, and no, excuse me. It was CJ, Key, Andre, Kyle, and Caleb, and then Luther was in that mix as well in a couple of those late possessions. But we're just talking about just late, couple minutes there.
Very good defensive lineup.
Yeah, that was a group that you'll learn you're alone. That's typically the direction I lean. Late in close games, I'm going to try to put our toughest team out there.
You said after you came back that you thought shooting could be a strength for this team. Was that something you saw in Spain, or is that you just think that from what the talent that you've got?
I think we might just have a few more guys. That's what I meant, because we may not have a guy that was the volume of a Kata, or maybe as accurate as Cam was.
Mm-hmm.
Both those guys were really accurate, and Kata was a high volume guy. What I do think is we could have a few more guys out on the floor that you would have to worry about behind the three, including Caleb, who was mentioned. We'd like for his numbers to increase. That's what I meant. Is a few more guys on the floor where you have to worry about them behind the line.
With that many, with hopefully that many shooters, last year at times you struggled with a guard who could get in the lane and kick.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, number one, is Key that kind of guard, and number two, has CJ improved that part of his game?
CJ's gotten better in that area. I think Keyshawn can do it, but he does it a little bit more in a crafty way. It's not like he's going to be super explosive in terms of doing that, but he's got a really good feel. Keyshawn has a really, really good feel for the game and makes the right play most times. And then I think Luther's another guy that will be what we call him paint touch guys.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Sean Tate was the ultimate paint touch guy. He lived in the paint. We'd like to have a few of those guys on the floor most times. And Luther's another guy that can do that. And Joyne can do it a little bit as well at times.
Saw a team announce a charity exhibition just the other day. Are you guys looking into anything like that this year?
We've talked about it just briefly. I think it's a petition you have to get through the NCAA. We've not, Adam, decided to do anything right now, but we've talked about it. I don't know that we'll add another one right now. We may just have a chance. You know, we go on the road, as you guys know, 2 out of our first 3 games to. I've been to both environments, and they are incredible road environments. You know, we're open in one arena, and we have another one that's maybe the hardest place up there, top 3 or 4 places I've ever played in terms of the energy of the crowd. So maybe it is wise to go do something like that somewhere else, but we'll see.
Coach, kind of going off of that with arenas and whatnot, I know that's one of the things you guys have really emphasized, especially last year, is trying to get more fans packed into the Schottenstein
Sure.
Center. And I know you guys are doing, like the student passes and whatnot this year. But what else besides, obviously winning games, are you guys maybe doing to help increase attendance this season?
You know, I think we're working with the school to do as much as we can to create an environment that's great in the shot. We have tried to, we have talked to various groups on campus that are involved, some game day operations, and met with various people, to give them our input and our ideas. But now's the time for us to really worry about the kind of product we're putting on the floor. So that'll be my focus here moving out. Maybe some of our other staff will continue to work on that. But you got to earn the right to have your fans come and watch you. I think we did that last year. I'm hoping this team will as well. We had some great crowds. We had some others that I would love to see even a more packed house. And again, we'll work towards making it a team that they enjoy watching.
Coach, you mentioned a lot of leaders with CJ kind of expanding that role and Keyshawn having
Yeah.
to kind of earn it. A lot of guys mentioned Joey, and obviously he's not going to play a whole lot, but in what ways can he be a leader in this program?
Well, he's got, first of all, guys like him. They respect him. They know he is all about Ohio State playing well and all about Ohio State winning. That's his only agenda. So when you have a older guy where that's his only agenda, and he's got the personality of Joey, and Joey's an unselfish kid. Joey Lane's a tremendous person, and I do think he'll have a level of influence. It's a little harder when you're not on the floor, but I do think he's going to be a guy that we right now poll the team on who the team leaders are. He's going to be one of the ones that gets. It's going to be him and CJ, and I think we'll kind of go from there. But I definitely think he's going to have a level of influence for sure.
Coach, Keyshawn said that he likes to be a vocal leader, but you've had to tell him, ease into it, coming into a new place. How often do you talk to him about that? What are those conversations like so that he doesn't maybe come on too strong?
Yeah, I don't know that I've said to him, ease into it. But I think he probably may be sensing that, when you come, just like Andrew last year, it just takes a little bit of time for him to earn kind of the respect of everybody, all of his teammates. I think that'll happen, and that'll come. But he's got to pay the price to earn that with his daily work, and he's done that up to this point for sure. But so much of that gets forged when you're in really challenging moments, and that's what we don't quite. I mean, we can sit here and name captains and put them out there, but that is our leadership's going to come in the challenging moments, and who all that's going to be, I'm not quite sure yet. That's what I'm anxious to see.
You say anxious, concerned, anxious, are they the same thing? Where is
Oh, anxious. Yeah, I mean, excited, concerned. I don't know if concerned would be the right. I'm just, I don't know how you characterize it, but I think we have some guys that just needs to be pulled out of more than maybe what we've been able to pull it out in the past. So that's what we got in front of us.
Because you said that the versatile lineup, the smaller lineup, whatever you want to call it, might not be as much of a weapon for you as it was last year. Is that because you're expecting to be able to put more on Caleb, or because you maybe just don't have the personnel to do it the way you did it last year?
Well, that's because we lost a guy named Keita Bates-Diop. Really, that's what it is. Just because he was so different with his length, his wingspan, and then his. I tell guys all the time. I think we've shared this before. we've talked about this because coach, you'll recruit kids and they'll say, well, I want to play this position and I want to play this position. I'll say, okay, well, what position's Draymond Green when he's out there bringing the ball up the floor and then guarding their biggest guy? He's bringing the ball up the floor, so he must be their point guard, and yet he's guarding their biggest guy. He's just a basketball player. And I think that's what we want to continue to try to add as much as possible on our roster. Having said that, we have a really good player in Caleb who can be a mismatch, and we intend to play him in late situations and Micah in late situations. We just have to get better at our versatility is not as going to be it is not as strong as it was last year. Okay, so we have to get better playing with more traditional five in those situations. Does that make sense?
Can that versatility develop throughout the course of the season, or is that something you like to have in the
I think guys can grow to a certain degree in terms of their versatility. I think you'll see that with some of our guys this year. But, the whole ability to go out and Keita ran a 5:25 mile and, could guard, twos, and Jayshawn Tate could guard 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So that's the versatility that's hard to replace. I do think like Andre Wesson can guard a lot of positions. Kyle Young can guard several positions. So that's what made kind of last year's team unique in that sense.
Chris, now that you know more about Columbus than just what's in the brochure, how much easier is recruiting now that you can use the city of Columbus, which you are now familiar with,
Yeah.
as part of your pitch?
I think it helps to have more familiarity with the school and the people, but that's really what we're, it certainly helps. Recruiting is always, I don't want to say it's ever easy, particularly if you're trying to recruit players that you feel like are really good players, which a lot of people want. I mean, it's nasty and it's competitive and it's. So I don't know that it's ever easy, but I do think having more familiarity with the school, the city, everything around it probably helps us communicate that better to recruits and their families. And we'll see if it pays off here.
Was there something about the city itself that surprised you, or was it pretty much
Yeah.
what you expected?
The potholes.
Maybe an unusually bad this year.
Yeah, I just was in Congress yesterday. I should have mentioned that as part of with a couple of the fine people I spoke with. But no, I think just the city in general. I hadn't been here enough to really know what to expect, but I love it. Our family loves it. The people are really kind. It's been a city that I've been blown away with how generous it is. How many really tremendous causes people get behind here in the city. I think the size of it surprised me. I didn't know it was 14th largest city in the country, and so I think all that has been a pleasant surprise. I knew it was great, but it's all been a pleasant surprise.
Why were you talking to Congressman yesterday?
So I was yesterday. It's just kind of what I do. You didn't know that? I do that once a week.
Well, I saw you talk to the governor earlier this year, too. It's beginning.
Yeah, no, so Coaches versus Cancer asked a few coaches to go out, and Coaches versus Cancer was working with the American Cancer Society, and they work in collaboration. And Coaches versus Cancer just has about 4 or 5 coaches that go out there and speak with their local politicians to try to encourage continued funding for research. And obviously, Ohio State does so many incredible things for the fight against cancer. So I was in some ways out there with Coaches versus Cancer, and in other ways just representing a university that has been at the forefront of that fight. So I was just out there for a day, and it was good. It was good being out there. Rode the Senate train, which was cool. So.
Chris, several of your predecessors as coach refused to give Cincinnati a home.
Yeah.
And because of that, despite the public wanting it, that there's been rare meetings between the two schools. Why did you come in and immediately decide this was the thing to do?
You know, I just felt like it was the right thing at this time. And for our program, honestly, that's the most simplest way I could say it. I just felt like it was the right thing at this time for our program. Now, I could feel completely different on, when is that? On the night of the 7th. But I just felt like it was, I understand why in the past, perhaps it was a decision that coaches made to not do it, to not play the game. I can understand that as well. But I think for us right now, given the quality of programs in the state, and in particular the quality of Cincinnati's program, to have a game that is relatively close, that would be considered a significant win was a positive, as well as um, there was so much. I mean, how many questions did I get in the first couple months about our schedule, in particular playing that game or a game like that? And then you guys can guess the other question I got. Are you ever going to play a game at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio Stadium.
Yes. At St. John.
Why did you think it was the right thing? Just you trying to regenerate interest in
Yeah, I think that was that played a role in it, but I'm not putting a schedule together to generate interest, because I think if you do that, it's going to be misguided. Um, it has to align with what our program goals are,
Okay.
and um, program energy is part of it, but also putting a schedule together that gives you a chance to have an at-large berth is another. So um, when you add all those things up, it made sense.
Did you call Mick or did Mick call you?
Mick and I never talked. Mick and I know each other. I like Mick a lot. I respect his work. Um, Obviously, they were waiting for us to make this decision. I think it was probably Jason and our administrators that arranged that. I think our office maybe initially contacted them, and then I'm not quite sure when I realized we were going to be opening the renovated arena, but
Too late?
it was too late. Yeah, it was too late for that. So.
Does 20 Big Ten games make like a Crossroads Classic type of thing a little bit more challenging to try to think about?
We're looking at doing something like that. I don't know that it's going to happen. 20, yes, is the short answer. It does make it more difficult, because the other thing we would like to do is continue to play in like what we played in last year, which was the PK80 or the Battle for Atlantis in Bahamas. We'd love our fans to come out and be a part of that, or Maui. So now you're adding that, and you're adding the challenges that we have between the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big East and the Big Ten. There's just not enough room. But it's not dead by any means. We're still looking at it. There's just going to be some years where it's going to be impossible to do.
Do you have to have is there a number of home games you have to have every year? Or can you take one?
I've not been told a certain number, specific number. We did at Butler, but I've not been told a specific number.
How do you feel like you balance recruiting nationally versus staying at home in Ohio?
I think the biggest thing for us is we know Ohio is the most important state for us, but the reality is it's our right up there is our breadbasket. That 5 to 7 hour radius that is our breadbasket. That's really what is extremely important for us to recruit and to recruit well. It is this breadbasket of 5 to 7 hours where we can recruit in the Midwest, and certainly we want to recruit Ohio well. We really need to recruit Ohio and those two things together effectively, and that's and then occasionally you'll go outside of those areas to recruit. Obviously Luther's from New Jersey, occasionally there'll certainly be some national guys that will continue to recruit. But we really want to be good in that area.
Is there anything that sticks out specifically about maybe Indiana? It seems like a lot of really good Ohio State players have come from the state of Indiana.
It's in our breadbasket. There's nothing. It's a really deep and talented state, and it can be cyclical, just like Ohio can be cyclical in terms of some years it's better than others. It has a really good run of talented guys right now, but it's part of our breadbasket, so it's really important. Were you going to ask another question?
And has the reception to what you've been pitching, especially to the upper echelon of recruits, changed at all given your success last year?
No, I think what it did is and I spoke a little bit of this on the spring, is it kind of validated what you were trying to communicate. I think a couple things, our success, and then obviously when you have a young man that is Big Ten Player of the Year and then goes and is drafted, both those things help. They don't get you a recruit, but they just, they grab the attention of the families when they see the development of a player. But at the end of the day, they're not doing the work for you.
Is there a different feel around this program this year now that you've experienced some success and went to the tournament versus when you came in here last year?
I think other people could assess that better than me. I do think there is a really good positive energy around our program right now, but perhaps you guys might have a better feel for that than I do, because I don't, I wouldn't say I'm as adept at maybe the people you just are fine players you just talk to at social media, so I couldn't necessarily gauge all that. I do think there's a good energy and a good positivity, and hopefully we can, when in terms of our play and recruiting, that we can hopefully continue to build off of. And it does maybe feel a little bit different. When I got here last year, there were, we had some tough conversations. So
There's a feeling that players maybe make their biggest growth between their freshman and their sophomore year. How important would that be for you on this team if the guys who were your freshmen last year, it just seems like there are roles there those guys could maybe step into that they need to be ready for?
yeah, I said, when we added those three guys that it was going to be most important for us really this year and in the coming years as opposed to last year. And obviously Caleb played a major role on last year's team, and Kyle and Musa both had their moments. But, we're super excited about, Kyle's off-season development. Musa's been injured part of the summer, so I think that's limited him a little bit. But all three of those guys, if we're going to have a good year, just like I said with the Wessons, all three of those guys I think are going to have an impact for sure. And it's critical. And I mean, that was important to add those two along with Caleb because of the middle classes that we had.
What are you super excited about Kyle's development for?
He's added a little more versatility, and he has been more confident as a player, which has been good to see. And maybe that helps not being guarded by Kata and JT every day. But I think he's just grown and maybe made that. Time will tell. But I'm just excited about what our fan base, I think, is going to have a chance to see a guy who is a team guy, about the right stuff, tough, and I think he's going to need to have take that next step for our team to take the next step. He's important for us.
When you talk about guys who have more of a three-point shooting skill set